Welcome back to Seattle. Lombardi's look back. The 49ers have won the NFC West. I've got some more comfortable environs here than I did last night in the freezing cold on the field, leaving the stadium last at what? It was something like 12:15 a.m. Yeah, it was like 12:15, I think, is when I went live. And I really got to fulfill a desire that I had dating back to the divisional playoffs last year against the Packers. I wanted to go out onto the field at Lambeau when it was negative 15 degrees, but part of me didn't want to go out onto the field, and that half of me won out. So it remained a bucket list thing. It stayed stuck on the bucket list. I mean, it would have been so cool to do a video on Lambeau Field, being the only person there. The stadium lights were still on. The snow was on the field at negative 12 degrees at 2 or 3 a.m., but I also might have died. So I decided not to do that. Anyway, last night it was a little bit warmer. I think it was 29 degrees. The only people left were the stadium cleanup crew, and I decided to go out on the field, and it was fun. It was like a 15-minute show. It wasn't that long. Today, though, I just get to sit back here in almost kind of like a reclining office chair. So it's nice. We can go through things in a little bit more of a composed fashion. So I think, yeah, Mike just said something, so we're all good though. Let's get to this. Let's go through this position by position as you all file in on this Friday morning. Normally I'm doing these on Monday morning. Did one on Monday morning, did one on Friday morning this week. That's what the Thursday games will do to you. It's a quick turnaround. NFL comes at you fast. Less than a week ago, the 49ers were nowhere near clinching the NFC West. Then Carolina beat Seattle just as the 49ers trounced Tampa Bay. That made things escalate really, really quickly. And then we show up here in Seattle on Thursday with the 49ers having a chance to beat the Seahawks and clinch that division title on their arch rivals' turf. And that indeed did happen last night, 21-13. The final score. I have the game book here straight from the press box at Lumen Field. That thing's been through so many name changes. Next, they're going to call it 3Com Park. It's a blast for the past, right? 49ers played, it was 3Com, but 2 seasons, I think. Went from Candlestick to 3Com to Monster. Well, yeah, we're the 40 Monster Park. That was a funny name. The 49ers played on a field yesterday. It was Quest Field. Then it became CenturyLink Field, the Clink. They like that. I liked when they called it the Clink. And then now it's Lumen Field. Still weird to see the new name. But 21-13 was the final. 49ers dominated this game, yet somehow, some way, as is typical for games at the Clink or Lumen Field, against the 49ers, the Seahawks stayed close. And some of it was the 49ers' own doing. I think that Kyle Shanahan wasn't aggressive enough with his fourth down decision-making. I don't think he should have punted from the 42 in the first half. I think that artificially kept this game close. The officials also artificially kept this game close. It would have been 28-3, and it was 28-3 very briefly after Deommodore Lenoir's pick 6. But the roughing the passer penalty nullified that, kept it 21-3, allowed Seattle to make it 21-6. That was a 10-point swing at the time, just in the immediate vicinity of the call. But in the larger picture, probably prevented a 40-point blowout. I mean, there were a couple Seattle fans that started leaving to the exits when Lenoir crossed the goal line with like 12 minutes left in the third quarter. And then they saw the flag and they're like, oh, never mind. We're going to come back. We'll watch the rest of this game. So the officials artificially kept the game close, and so did the 49ers with what I thought was some conservative play calling. Everything made a whole lot more sense, though, in retrospect, and this is where we can start our position-by-position look. Quarterback, Brock Purdy did not throw a football all week ahead of this game. Had the oblique and the rib injury, and supposedly those were extremely painful. The 49ers didn't make him throw until pregame warmups. They actually had to cut some of his pregame warmups short so that he could conserve enough pain-free energy to play in this game. And given that, Kyle Shanahan's game plan of funneling everything through Christian McCaffrey, especially with Deebo Samuel unavailable, made 100% sense. He needed to make this as manageable as possible for Brock Purdy. And along those lines, I could see why the 49ers did some punting from plus territory. I still disagree with the call. I still think that the Seahawks, who were giving up 5.7 per carry over their 4 games coming in, they weren't able to stop a nosebleed on the ground. I thought that the 49ers still should have pushed forward. I thought that would have shown more trust in their defense than punting. But whatever. It's in the past. I do think Kyle Shanahan should think about being more aggressive in the future, especially in some of these playoff games against better opposition. Because, you trust your defense by keeping your offense out there. You say, hey, even if we don't convert this 4th down, we don't care if our defense has to take the field around midfield. They don't need the crutch of better field position. So I think that was the one kind of blemish on this win is the lack of aggressiveness on 4th down decisions that kept the Seahawks in this game. But I do understand why it happened. And, as we're talking about the quarterback position, that kind of context is apparent. Shanahan in the locker room said that was the toughest performance, like the most pain he's ever seen overcome. I believe he meant by a quarterback. And to me, that speaks so many volumes because you see Brock Purdy winning over the football team, and that's something the 49ers are going to need to get to where they want to go, because now they're going to need Purdy to be the QB as they try to attain at least the number 2 seed. The way to win the respect of the locker room is to play hurt and to play well hurt. And Brock Purdy absolutely did that for the 49ers yesterday. 17 of 26. He fit 11 for his first 11, which was, huge to me because the 49ers controlled this game wire to wire. We knew they were better than the Seahawks, and they didn't want any funny business to happen in Seattle. So the way to make sure that no funny business happens, to establish yourself early, is to play mistake-free football early. And being 11 of his first 11, Purdy was really impressive. Yes, he missed one to Ayuk there on the deep out. 49ers stalled a bit toward the end of the first half. I blame a lot of that on Shanahan not keeping his foot on the gas on that 4th down from the 42. But we could talk about that forever. It was weird because they kept the offense out there, got the offsides penalty, then decided to punt. I get it. They were looking for a free play. They didn't get that free play, but still, Purdy before that moment was just on one. He apparently wasn't feeling the pain, or at least was able to mask it. Started 11 of 11, manipulated the defense with his eyes so masterfully. Shanahan was going to run a play fake game yesterday, right? Christian McCaffrey was going to be the focal point of the offense. Out of the 49ers' first 29 plays, 20 of them were directed at McCaffrey. That is a massive load. A lot of people complaining, saying, oh, where's Jordan Mason? Got to take a load off of McCaffrey. It's like, no. Schematically, you had to sell the McCaffrey presence so that you could run the play fakes to the tight ends off of that. George Kittle, 8 yesterday, right? 2 touchdowns, 2 long touchdowns, including the big 54-yarder. Tyler Kroft was wide open on one of the ceiling drives there toward the end of the game. And the common denominator for all those big plays to the tight ends was the Seahawks defense was running like a chicken with its head cut off after Christian McCaffrey. If you're McCaffrey and you're a superstar and you get 20 of the first 29 touches, then any blink in his direction is going to send the defense running after him. So they called the play Hollywood, right? The first touchdown was called Hollywood. And it was because an acting job was needed to sell it. An acting job from Brock Purdy was awesome. Pump fakes to the left to Ray McLeod, pump fakes to the right to Christian McCaffrey. And, of course, the entire defense follows McCaffrey, Kittle wide open over the middle for the touchdown. So much happening on that play, but the operative key was symbolic of this 49ers season, and it was that Christian McCaffrey was a gravitational force. He was like a planet. What's the biggest planet in the solar system? Is it Jupiter? I think it's Jupiter, right? Jupiter's got a stronger gravitational pull than Pluto, which I still think is a planet. I'm going to argue that forever. But, say if Pluto over here, not a planet anymore, it's been relegated. It's like a soccer team in England that didn't win enough. And you have Jupiter over here. Jupiter is going to draw way more of the other materials in the solar system into its orbit than Pluto. So Christian McCaffrey is Jupiter. The defense just follows him. That gravitational pull opened things up for George Kittle of the middle of the field. And if you're Kyle Shanahan, you need somebody that has the ability to play the position well, right? Jimmy Garoppolo played the position really well for the 49ers. Brock Purdy plays the position really well with his eyes. And he's able to sell the fakes that are there for the exploiting with a guy like Christian McCaffrey on the field. There's a reason why the 49ers are 7-0 ever since Christian McCaffrey was traded to them and has taken a full-time role in the lineup. They're averaging over 8 points a game more now with Christian McCaffrey as a full-timer in the lineup than they were before. In the National Football League, that is a massive, massive uptick. And I think you have to go to one of these games to fully appreciate it. I mean, you could see it on TV. You see the big plays on TV, but you don't see the spacing until you're actually at one of these games. So those of you who are at the game or have been at a game this year, go ahead and comment your thoughts. But you could see the spacing. You could see the feel that Christian McCaffrey has for the field and the respect that he generates from the defense. And then you could do stuff like Hollywood, right? You could fake left, fake right, throw over the middle to George Kittle. It was a play that the 49ers had last run in 2018. And the funny thing is, in 2018, Kittle actually, part of the fake is that he has to pretend to run block at the start of the play. And in 2018, when they ran it at the Coliseum against the Rams, Kittle actually took a dive. He pretended that he was blocking on the ground, right? He literally hit the ground. The Rams forgot about him. He popped back up. Nick Mullins hit him, and then George Kittle started running. But Kyle Shanahan realized that was a little too risky. He said, there was a situation where George Kittle took a dive, and he's laying on the ground. I mean, playing dead, essentially, right? Just sitting there playing dead. But if the opponent is blitzing, then your quarterback is a sitting duck while the guy he's trying to throw to is laying on the ground. That's a good way to get somebody killed out on the football field. So Shanahan was like, that's a little bit too risky. I want to make sure that Seattle's in quarters. I want to make sure they're not blitzing, so we have time to execute this fake. I mean, it's a total Trojan horse kind of play. And so they kept Kittle up, and he sold the run block while he was still above ground, while he still wasn't, he wasn't sitting there running some kind of elaborate fake. And that's what Christian McCaffrey allows you to do, right? In 2018, you don't have McCaffrey, so the fake to the right doesn't have that same type of gravitational pull. So Kittle needs to do something crazier on the fake. He didn't have to do anything crazy in this game. All he had to do was sell a block, stayed on his feet, sprung off the block, and then Brock Purdy's ability to play the position was enough, combined with Christian McCaffrey's gravitational pull. Fakes left, fakes right. Finds Kittle over the middle. Accurate throw, even with the rib injury. Awesome, awesome design from the 49ers. Hollywood worked. I mean, it was funny to me. You talk about Hollywood. The 2019 49ers Seahawks clincher was straight out of a Hollywood script. This one was a little bit more. I called it the garden variety clincher. I could put my article up on the screen. Here you go. 49ers deliver the finishing blow, savor winning the NFC West title over the Seahawks. So I was in the locker room after the game, got to talk to a bunch of guys, soak in the vibe. That's what I wrote about. If you want to check out the article, the link is in the comment section for you and in the description, actually in the comment section right now. But, one of my main themes in this piece was that the hardest portion of any title run is always the end of it. In any sport, really, right? Finishing a team out, finishing a trophy run out, getting the last 3 outs is the most difficult. And the reason that I use the baseball analogy is because the 49ers are using the baseball analogy. And you talk about the running back room. Jordan Mason is the closer for this team. Christian McCaffrey literally went up and said, we call him Mariano Rivera. We bring him in to get the final 3 outs. And to me, Jordan Mason delivering on, I think we have a picture of him in this order. There he is. There's Jordan Mason, the 55-yard run to seal the game. Jordan Mason delivering in that moment was so symbolic of the 49ers team this year because they've just come in waves of depth. And that's how, it must be just overwhelming to play these guys. If you're the Seahawks, think about this. You're out there just getting your ass kicked at the line of scrimmage for 59 minutes. Christian McCaffrey has 30-plus touches. You can't figure out how to cover him. Then they're running play fakes to the tight ends. And you're just like, oh, my God, we're going to wave the white flag. We're almost about to give up. But, of course, you got to give Seattle credit. They didn't give up. They scratched and clawed. They got help from the refs. I get it. But they're still within a possession. It gets a little hairy. We all know the history in that stadium. You can't risk anything anywhere in the NFL, but especially in that stadium, that could have been a real heartbreaker for the 49ers. So Kyle Shanahan, he's like Bruce Bochy, right? Shanahan comes out to the mound, brings in the righty, he points out to the bullpen, and Jordan Mason comes charging in. They got to play the trumpet music for Jordan Mason. That'd be awesome. What the Mets did this year for their closer. But anyway, Mason comes in with fresh legs, and you got to get him back up on the screen. That's Mason. Nobody wants any part of him. I mean, the Seahawks were making business decisions with the division on the line. Guys, Trent Williams said it best. He called him out. He's like, yeah, guys are taking creative angles out there so they don't have to make contact with him. Like, the NFC West, the chance to win it, my personal health, you're balancing the two things. You're tired at the end of a 60-minute game, and you have a 223-pound load running straight at you. You have to make a choice. Is it worth it to try to take this guy on? It wasn't worth it for the Seahawks to try to take Jordan Mason on, and he goes and closes the game with the 102-mile-an-hour fastball or the 55-yard run. Now, Jordan was hilarious. I talked to him after, and we're just talking about the run, and he's like, you know what? It was awesome, man, but next time I do it, I've got to unhitch the trailer. Because, I mean, the joke is when you're running and a guy catches you, as Jordan Mason got caught, when you run out of gas, the joke in football is that you're running with a trailer hitched onto you. That you need to let go of the trailer so you get that little extra burst. And the good news for the 49ers is that, and for Jordan Mason, is that there's still a lot more football left to be played. They still have 3 games in the regular season, and I think this team's going to go on a playoff run. Jordan Mason has a chance to run without the trailer attached next time. Ran out of gas there, but, I mean, at 223 pounds, you can see why. The dude is just, I mean, that's a lot of mass to be carrying at a very high speed. And he went 50 yards. Those last 5, he slowed down a little bit. Just a funny little bit of self-deprecation, though, in the locker room. Moving on to the receiver position, how about Ray McLeod? Another guy who's symbolic of how deep this 49ers team is. I mean, last year they didn't have a closer to go to at running back in Jordan Mason, right? Last year they had to rely on Deebo Samuel to do absolutely everything. A guy like Jordan Mason, Christian McCaffrey. I mean, the dynamics have totally changed. It's a much better team than the one that walked on the tightrope last year. But at receiver, we saw it too. No Deebo. Ray McLeod just filled in for Deebo Samuel so well. That third down that he picked up and just bowled over a defender, wasn't afraid of contact there near the pilot. That was an awesome play. It was a great play from Purdy, too, to identify McLeod underneath. And then, the speed that he showed, that's a nice guy to have as a gadget weapon, a backup gadget weapon that's able to do that, to fill into the Deebo Samuel role. That's impressive to me. I saw a lot of toughness out of Ray McLeod. But, on top of that, he's played such a solid return man position. Between the kick returns and the punt returns, you just feel good about Ray McLeod's dependability, right? And last year, the 49ers got desperate, both on special teams and at running back. In the postseason, Deebo Samuel was returning kicks and playing running back. This year, they have the luxury of not even needing Deebo Samuel to win games authoritatively. You have Ray McLeod filling in as the return specialist, and you have Ray McLeod delivering in that Deebo Samuel role at wide receiver. So I thought that was fantastic for the 49ers. And while we're talking about the receivers, Juwan Jennings is a championship player. One of the biggest plays of the game, 49ers backed up on their own goal line, 3rd and 6, I think, maybe 3rd and 7. Juwan Jennings slant, gets just pulverized by linebacker, holds on to the football. I mean, the dude is dependable. He's tough as nails, pisses the defense off because he blocks so hard. But his dependability on those third down situations, that's where he's really going to make some money in the NFL. And, I mean, Jennings just wasn't letting go of any footballs yesterday. The 49ers had one costly drop that kept the door open. It was from Brandon Ayuk. It's hard to fault Brandon Ayuk. He's been playing so well this year, separating at an elite level. But you got to talk about Juwan Jennings. 3 catches, 31 yards. That doesn't look crazy on the box score. But, boy, were all of those catches vital and important. And, it goes back to Purdy's ability to play the position, too. That third down from the goal line, Purdy's eyes have to be disciplined. The eyes have to be in the middle of the field before he pivots right and fires into that slant. Otherwise, that linebacker is going to undercut that pass, and it could be a disastrous interception. So the short game should never be taken for granted. I said this all the time with Jimmy Garoppolo. Brock Purdy's a very similar player. The 49ers short game is even more pronounced now. Average depth of target is not long. The short game, though, is not easy to execute. If it were easy to execute, Geno Smith would be running it all game yesterday to try to get away from the 49ers pass rush. Instead, the Seahawks were running all these deep concepts, and Geno Smith was just taking a beating. The short game is going to win and lose titles. And it looks to me like Brock Purdy's got a very, very adequate command of that short game. Quickly to the tight ends, you had Croft with his 28-yard catch coming off the play fake. Kittle, 4 for 93. That was awesome for the 49ers. It's the tight ends are the primary beneficiaries from the play fake game. And obviously the Christian McCaffrey usage set that up because, we know Kyle Shanahan likes to run a positionless skill position offense where guys can do anything at any given time, and that keeps defenses off balance. The focal points of that effort are the tight ends because the tight ends are the guys that could sell a run block and spring out for a pass pattern. So no accident that Kittle and Croft had big games yesterday because Christian McCaffrey was setting that play fake game up, and that play fake game is the lifeblood of the 49ers offense. And leads right into this. The 49ers generated 27 pressures against the Seahawks. Seattle only generated 4 pressures against the 49ers. As I talk about the offensive and defensive lines, that number right there, 27-4, that's insane. That shouldn't happen at this level. That's something you might see at the high school level. I wouldn't even see that at the college level. 27 pressures for one team and 4 for the other. These guys are all paid on both sides. These guys are professionals on both sides. And this is just such a thorough domination at the line of scrimmage. And it's a credit to everybody. It's not, the line of scrimmage can be won or lost in many ways. But if you combine a bunch of factors, such as a good run game, efficient quarterback play, tight play action game, Christian McCaffrey's gravitational pull, you combine all that, that's how you get to only 4 pressures allowed if you're the 49ers, because you shield your quarterback and your offensive line from straight drop back scenarios. Now, on defense, if your coverage is good enough, if your linebackers are flying around, obviously if your pass rush is good enough, then you could force an offense into multiple drop back situations and rack up the pressures. So this is a team stat that boils down to line of scrimmage play. And on both lines of scrimmage, the 49ers thoroughly whipped the Seahawks to where they had 27 pressures on the defensive side and only allowed 4 pressures against the Seahawks on the offensive side. That statistic right there is a reflection just how good the game plan was and how well it was executed by the 49ers on both sides of the football. Bosa had 6 pressures for the 49ers. Eric Armstead had 5. Armstead is a complete difference maker. It's a total joke that people were saying that he was overrated. And I'm sure there's still people on social media saying that. He's one of the best players in football. He's not going to get the kind of credit that he deserves for being one of the best players in football. But Eric Armstead is one of the best players in football. I think he's better than DeForest Buckner. He pushes that pocket a whole lot stronger than DeForest Buckner. Buckner's a more polished pass rusher. But Armstead, he's just so prodigiously strong. It's unbelievable. And he could play end or he could play tackle. And he just, again, I call him a snowplow. He just caves that offensive line in. And even if he's not getting sacks, he's generating sacks. And that's the more sophisticated way to look at things. The combination of Armstead and Nick Bosa is completely lethal. And, I'll stay with this. This would have been a 40-point game, maybe a 35-point game if they didn't call that roughing penalty on Bosa. It's nothing against the 49ers. It's the thing against defense. The NFL, it's hard to be a defender these days. Bosa got held later on, and they called him for hands to the face. It's hard to be a defender in the modern NFL. The way that the officials are calling these games really, really favors the offense. But it kept the game close. Bosa did get a sack. He's at 15.5 on the season. That's a career high for Nick Bosa. Leads the league. The question now is, does he get to 20? He's got 3 games left. Can he get to 20? It's going to be fascinating to see because another player you watch in person, the way that he just dominates left tackles, right tackles, whoever he wants. He's He's generational. I put out a tweet yesterday. Let me find this. This is worth finding. This is courtesy of the 49ers. Their PR team unearthed a really good one. I have to give them credit for this. But anytime that you mention Nick Bosa and Reggie White in the same sentence, probably a good thing for Nick Bosa. For a pass rusher to be mentioned in the same breath as Reggie White is impressive. So there are just 5 players to log 15 or more sacks in 2 of their first NFL seasons. Prior to yesterday, Reggie White, Richard Dent, Andre Tippett, and J.J. Watt were the 4 players who had done that. 15 or more sacks in 2 of their first 4 seasons. Bosa now joins that group. Again, it's Reggie White, Richard Dent, Andre Tippett, J.J. Watt, and Nick Bosa. I mean, he's on a Hall of Fame trajectory, and he's only in his 3rd full season, right? Because he tore his ACL in 2020. I mean, you're watching Reggie White level greatness right now at the start of Nick Bosa's career. Now, if he can sustain it for his whole career, we're going to be talking about him as a Reggie White type player. He definitely has the ability. He's just an awesome pass rusher. And then when he gets Eric Armstead involved next to him, Armstead, one of the best linemen in football as well, that creates the type of performance that we saw yesterday. 27 pressures versus only 4 for Seattle. Speaking of the best players in football, how about Dre Greenlaw? Is he one of the best players in football? I mean, he's an impact player. Shanahan calls him Mike Tyson because he looks a little bit like Mike Tyson, but he certainly hits like Mike Tyson. He just jarred that ball loose from Travis Homer. Remember, that was at the point of the game where the 49ers offense thanks to Kyle Shanahan's punt, wasn't really doing its job putting the Seahawks away. The game was way closer than it should have been. It was 7-3. Seattle had a chance to make some noise before halftime. Run a screen pass. Travis Homer starts running. Give credit to Jimmy Ward. He made the initial contact. And Dre Greenlaw just flies in there, dislodges the football. Charvarius Ward picks it up, and it, essentially puts the 49ers on that surefire path to winning. It seems that Greenlaw is making a violent tackle every single time you look up. He's one of the best tacklers in football. He has been since 2019, but now he's added extra violence to the tackles, and they set a tone. They generate takeaways. There's a message that the 49ers defense broadcasts to opposing offenses, and it's don't even think about trying a short game. Your guys are going to get hurt if they do, or they're going to fumble. That's literally happened here over the past few weeks. That's why they're the best defense in all of football. And Greenlaw is such a big part of this. He and Fred Warner are different styles of linebacker, right? Fred Warner is the ultimate coverage guy. And don't get me wrong, Fred Warner hits people. He can play the run too. But Greenlaw is just such an enforcer. Well, Fred Warner is just so good spatially. And Greenlaw also ran down Tyreek Hill. So they both can do everything, but they're still both a different style. And it's Batman and Robin. But I'm beginning to think the 49ers have 2 Batmans. I don't think Greenlaw's Robin to Dre Greenlaw's Batman. I think they got 2 of these guys. And, the secondary guy who also sniffed out a screen in an awesome fashion to open the game yesterday is Azeez Al-Shire. So it's unquestionably the best linebacker trio in the NFL. But, Greenlaw and Warner are 1 and 1A, or other way around, Warner and Greenlaw. Both of these guys should be in the Pro Bowl. It's time that we start talking about Greenlaw, some kind of secondary piece. That was an awesome, awesome performance from him yesterday. Defensive backfield. How about Ward squared? That's Charvarius and Jimmy Ward. Jimmy Ward moved to slot cornerback earlier this year. Tom Brady mercilessly attacks the slot. He averaged less than 3 yards per target into Jimmy Ward's coverage. Yesterday, Tyler Lockett, one of the best slot receivers in the game, managed only 1 catch and 9 yards against Jimmy Ward. It's a good thing that the 49ers didn't listen to people on the internet and made this position switch, because this is what they needed. I talked to Jimmy after the game. He said he still thinks that his best nickel play is in front of him. And by extension, the 49ers' best defensive play is still in front of them. And that's scary. They're on a 7-game tear that's at like historic NFL levels when you consider their team-wide efficiency, and the defense is leading the way. And to me, when we watch these games, there's still meat left on the bone. The defense could still be a little bit better. Jimmy Ward's still fully learning how to play the slot cornerback position, but he has been awesome the last 2 weeks. And Charvarius Ward, DK Metcalf was getting fed up with Charvarius Ward. Like, 49ers sideline was enjoying the hell out of that. You saw Corey Unlin, the quarterback's coach. You saw Kyle Shanahan. They all might have been jawing a little bit at DK Metcalf because Charvarius Ward is getting right up in his face. And DK, you've seen how he's built. That's not an easy guy to out physically maneuver. And Charvarius Ward did that. I mean, DK had 7 catches for 55 yards, a long of 13. 49ers didn't shut him down, but effectively eliminated his explosiveness in that game. And that's why their defense was number 1 and still is number 1, has really morphed into that. So anyway, 49ers win the NFC West. They are an impressive football team. If there's a weakness in this game, a few too many penalties. But, this was not going to be a pretty game. I predicted 20-17. We had Margot predict, 21-16? Yeah, 21-16. She was closer than me. It was 21-13. So it ended up playing the way that we thought it would, right? 49ers better team. Seahawks get some home cooking, right? The Seahawks are able to make those games closer than they should be, but the 49ers had to persevere, and they did. And they brought in the closer, Jordan Mason, and they've clinched the NFC West. The 49ers have gone from 3-4 on October 23rd with everybody demoralized, right? Especially the fan base, to being the first team in the NFL to clinch their division this year. Think about that. From 3-4 to the first team to clinch their division in mid-December. Earliest 49ers clinched since 2011 when they clinched on December 4th. They do it on the 15th this year. That's what a 7-game win streak will do for you. And in an age of parity in NFL, it is hard to win 7 in a row. And it's probably going to become 8 in a row. And then it's probably going to go to 9 in a row, maybe 10 entering the playoffs. And at this point, we could start talking about the 49ers being like the 94 team who won, I believe it was 10 in a row. Yeah. It was 10 in a row up until they lost the Week 17 game after the 40-8 loss to Philadelphia at home. And hey, maybe the 49ers are on a collision course with the Eagles this year to really wrap up that 94 story full circle. I'll leave you guys with this. 49ers had a team meal after the game yesterday in the hallway there under Lumen Field. They get this stuff catered on the road. They bring in a ton of food. You got to feed a lot of people. 49ers served Philly cheesesteaks. I don't know if they did that on purpose, but it would be funny if they did. All right, it's been Lombardi's Look Back. Like the video, sub to the channel. We'll talk to you all soon. Take care.